Hope so.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to PopCultX, your go-to show for all things pop culture from our Gen X perspective. My name is Danny, and along with Gabriel, we're your hosts here to guide you on this journey through all things that come into our mind at any given moment. So, I guess first things, Gabe, how are you? How was your week and a half, however long it's been?
Yeah, doing well. Just kind of watching TV and movies and reading and doing all the things that are fun. Yeah, that's pretty
Okay.
much it. How about yourself?
It's about the same. I watched another chef film, not chef, but another cooking film. This one was with Bradley Cooper and named and Sienna Miller, I think was her name.
Yeah,
Burnt. That was a I like cooking movies like that. I think they're fun.
yeah, they're interesting. I could never be a chef, but it's interesting watching other people be chefs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I guess maybe that's why I like the show The Bear a lot. Because
Yeah,
I like those films, so it kind of has that same energy and vibe, to it, and it's just the chaos that endures behind the restaurant, eating area where the kitchen goes on and stuff that we don't really see in the day to day. I know it's more glamorized. I'm hoping it is. I've never
yeah.
been inside a working kitchen like those restaurants are to tell you whether or not that's how if it's accurate. But I hope it isn't like they depicted in the show and the films because that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like it probably is realistic because I just think about my own job experiences, and you wouldn't think that there'd be anything exciting that would happen within the industry that I work in. And there's some weird stories that I could share, but it definitely is straight reality is stranger than fiction, I think sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. That's a saying for a reason. But I
Yeah.
just think about all those poor people who go through that. Then all the sous chefs, the chef de parties, the pastry chefs, everything to endure the ego of the head chef. A lot of these times, it's like I don't know if I could put myself through that,
Yeah.
and not
I
like
definitely
there's a
have
lot of
had
knives available. It's like
I've had some managers that I definitely feel like it's kind of the same situation, but luckily that's in my past.
Well, good thing no knives were there, I hope.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you watch any new movies or any interesting movies?
Yeah, I actually saw I went to that AMC like sneak preview thing
Hmm.
that I do where you get to see a movie before its release. And this week it was The Life of Chuck.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
yeah, it's based off of a Stephen King
Yeah.
short story, and it's directed by Mike Flanagan. Has a lot of really interesting cast. So
Yeah.
Tom Hiddleston, who plays Loki, was in it. Um, Mia Sarah, who is from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, is in it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mark Hamill, who obviously is Luke Skywalker, he plays the grandpa in it.
Hmm.
He's really great. Um, Matthew Lillard from Scream. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember him, but he's sort of like our
13
generation.
Ghosts. Yeah.
There. Yeah. 13 Ghosts, exactly. And then there was someone else, another actress that's in it that I was really surprised. Nick Offerman is the narrator. Um, God, there's one other person that was,
There's like Karen
Heather,
Gillian's in it.
Heather Langenkamp. I don't know if you know her. She played Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
She is in it as well. She's a cameo. So like there's a lot of
Cool.
interesting people that are in it. Like um that kind of was like, nudge nudge to Doug while we were watching it. Like, do you see who that is? Like that's really cool. You kind of don't really recognize Mark Hamill. He like kind of transformed himself like to play the role. He plays like an old grandpa.
Hmm.
Um but the I don't want to spoil the plot for anyone, but it's a really interesting plot. It's kind of like a story where everyone's like interconnected,
Yeah.
and I'll kind of leave it at that, I guess, because then it might spoil it. But really, really good actors are in it, and it's a really interesting story. It was fun watching it. It was interesting. It was kind of thought provoking. And I recommend anyone go check it out when it finally does open up.
Very cool. Yeah, I was looking at the cast list while you were talking, and it's if I didn't know any better, I would say it's a James Gunn film, just based on the cast.
Yeah.
Like, because all his usual suspects are in there, right? So, like you said, Karen Gillan, Tom Hiddleston isn't, but let's pretend he is. So yeah, that's very cool. I heard good things about this film, so I'm excited to watch that. It reminds me of the other Stephen King novella that they turned into a film about the guy with the cell phone that was helping out the older man. I think we talked about that once.
Sounds familiar. I don't recall what the name of it
I don't
was.
recall the name of it either, but I guess there's something to be had for Stephen King's novellas translating into good films.
Yeah, I think Stand By Me was a short
Hmm.
story of Stephen King's, and that's like a classic.
Yeah.
But
I've only seen that movie once, Stand By Me, and didn't want to watch it again because of the whole throw up scene, right?
oh, really? That grossed you out?
It grossed me out so much when I was a kid. I never wanted to see it again. I think I need to go back and watch it though.
It's such a good film. I mean, it kind of, I don't know, reminds you of childhood and when you are kind of adventurous and have that like adventurous spirit kind of out for
Mm-hmm.
anything and
Yeah,
your friends and it's a good movie.
yeah. I'll have to return to that, and it's a classic, like you said. So
Yeah, for sure.
for sure.
Definitely like think of the actors that are in it. River Phoenix,
Hmm.
Will Wheaton, um who was the other guy that played the little chubby kid? Uh
Oh goodness.
he's married to Rebecca Romaine Stamos now.
Uh, we said Will Wheaton. You said River Phoenix. Uh, Jerry O'Connell's in it. Corey Feldman,
Harry O'Connell, Corey Feldman. Yeah.
Kiefer Sutherland. Yeah. I think I might watch that sometime later on today or tonight.
Yeah, it's a good film. It's really good.
Yeah,
I think doesn't he John Cusack play his brother in it as
yeah,
well?
yeah.
Yeah.
Cusack is in it.
Yeah. That's such a good cast.
Yeah, and Rob Reiner's a director. I like him. So
Yeah.
right on. I have some exciting things to watch tonight.
Yeah.
But I did watch, and not to quickly segue into like our main topic of the show here, I did watch a good documentary, which is interesting
Yeah.
for me because I'm not a huge documentary person. It's just
Yeah.
something that they're fine. I have nothing against them personally. It's just not my cup of tea usually. But this one, I guess because the topic was so, I don't want to say near and dear to my heart because it wasn't near and dear, but it was something that's been around for pretty much my entire life, right? Until he
Yeah.
passed away. And of course, we're talking about Pee Wee as himself, or I'm talking about Pee Wee as himself because Gabe hasn't talked about it yet. But anywho, it's a new documentary by director Matt Wolf that really relies on, I think they said like 40 hours of interviews that Paul Reubens did about himself as Pee Wee, and it really gave a chance for Paul Reubens to clear the air, I guess, and tell his own version of his life and story, which I think is really neat when creative people get to do that before they pass on. Of course, Paul Reubens passed away in 2023, and I think at the end of this documentary, we get like his final words about his life, which was I thought was heartbreaking, tragic, but also very poignant in that he got to end it on his own terms.
Yeah.
But I saw it, I liked it. Now I'll shut up and let you say what you want to say about it.
Yeah, you went through the whole gamut, kind of from beginning to end of like everything that happens. But I think the first thing that I was kind of impressed with was like the history of Pee-wee Herman, like where it came from, like where it
Mm-hmm.
originated from. I didn't really know that it was a group effort. That Pee-wee's Playhouse started off as like a comedy troupe coming up with
Right.
what do you call it when you improv?
Yeah.
And that it came from there, like Phil Hartman and a bunch of other people worked on Pee Wee's Playhouse, and then it sort of grew from there. So it was really interesting that it started off and that iteration was like more adult, like it was more tongue in cheek,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
the jokes were a little bit more. centered around adult comprehension.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool, and that it was really subversive, which I thought was really kind of interesting because I thought of it more as like a kid show, Pee-wee's Playhouse, and I don't remember really watching it all that much when I was a kid. To remember the ins and outs of the show, to be able to pick up on um, anything that was geared towards adults. But there definitely was things there, as they mentioned in the documentary, that it was very much like wink, wink, like nudge, nudge kind of things going on in the show that made it entertaining for adults to watch as well as for children. Children didn't really get it, but they thought it was funny because of all the other antics that were going on in
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah.
But adults were able to watch it, which I thought that was really cool. And it just sort of show Paul Reubens for like the creative genius that he is or
Hmm.
was.
Hmm.
I really thought that it was nice that he was able to step from behind the character, because everyone sort of knew him just as Pee-wee Herman. Like there was no Paul Reubens. Like who's
Right.
Paul Reubens? It was always Pee-wee Herman, Pee-wee Herman. So it was interesting to be able to see him as himself. Um, and I think that for based off of his own words, that was sort of important for him to do that, because he felt like he was sort of overshadowed by the character. But it was just a really cool insight into his life, like kind of pre-fame, during fame, and then post-fame,
Yeah.
uh, and all the ups and downs and trials and tribulations that he had during that. So it was really interesting documentary.
It was, and I learned a lot about Paul Reubens
Yeah.
from the documentary that I didn't know. I mean, growing up, I did watch Pee Wee's Playhouse. Not as much, but I did watch it, like kind of like you. So I knew about enough about it to enjoy this. I
Yeah.
didn't know that Pee Wee's Big Adventure, the film, came before the show. I always thought
Yeah.
it was the other way around for some reason, that the show was popular enough that they wanted to make a movie out of it, not that the movie was popular that they made a TV show from it. So I
Mhm.
thought that was the first thing that stood out to me, was that. I should have known that, but I didn't. Um, but there was, I mean, I think it was that whole double-edged sword that he talked about, that he was hiding behind the character. And that was very interesting to me because I tend to wear a lot of masks myself, like for different roles, or not just as an actor, but at different life things. I wear a mask for this person or that person. But he
Yeah.
took it to the next level with this character, where I think, and it really hurt him the most when I think for the writing credits for Pee Wee's Big Adventure, it was Phil Hartman, Paul Reubens, and one other person, but no one knew that Paul Reubens was Pee Wee.
Mhm.
And I think he took that to heart, and I think that's one of the reasons why he finally decided to open up more about his life, because he said he was always a private person, which is understandable. I mean, but it's hard to be famous and be private at the same time.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think that the thing that was interesting too is that sort of he was sort of hiding his sexuality. I mean, not hiding it to those that knew him,
right,
but hiding it
right,
to the general population,
yeah,
or to the public. And so he had that duality of like
yeah,
his public persona and then his private persona, right? And I don't know, it was like it kind of feel like we missed out on a lot, because I think he had a lot to offer outside of just the Pee-wee Herman character.
hmm,
That he could have come up with a lot more of really cool characters, and he did. We saw him in like the movie Blow, Batman Returns.
yeah,
There was a lot of other Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a lot of other characters that he had, or that he portrayed. But it seems like there could have been a lot more. Like
yeah,
if he would have maybe come along in a different time, in a different era, that maybe he wouldn't have had to separate his personas, and perhaps like that could have led to us being able to see more of him.
yeah, yeah. I guess that um led me to think about a question that I had, was going to ask you anyways. Would
Yeah.
a show like Pee Wee's Playhouse get even made today, with the way it blurs the lines between the character and himself, and the
Uh,
double entendres of different things? Would that even get made today in today's TV market?
I don't really watch a lot of like kid stuff, so I don't really know. I don't have kids, so like I'm not privy to like what's popular and what is out there.
Hmm.
I kind of feel like there is a lot. Our generation, like people who are in Gen X, like I think that raise their kids. Recently, I think their kids are probably like within their 20s now or like late teens. Um, Kind of raised them with a different like level of sophistication where they did know a lot about the world. They were a little bit
Hmm.
more worldly than other generations. And I'm trying to think of like other cartoons or shows that were supposedly made for kids but really adults could watch.
Yeah,
Uh, like SpongeBob SquarePants was like really
that's
popular with adults, even though it's like a kid show. And there are jokes that are like definitely geared towards adults that like have a double meaning. I think that it could be successful in this day and age, like, and yeah, that it would be popular and that it could exist. I don't know. What do you think? Would a show like that beat Fly or nowadays?
um, yes and no. I think yes because, like you said, I think more kids are more because of the internet and everything. They're already more open to a wider variety of information already, right? So they're more, I don't want to say worldly, but they know they're not as in a closed bubble as I think we were back then.
Yeah.
So I think it could work that way. But also, I don't know, it's kind of maybe as like a web streaming show, it might work. I don't know if it would get picked up on like a network TV series, maybe like on a Peacock or something like that. It would work, but I don't know if it
Yeah.
would go over broadcast TV.
Yeah.
I didn't know if the demand would be for it there.
Yeah. It's an interesting question because I don't really know what kids nowadays are like looking at or watching or what they're really into, but it definitely, I mean, was part of the like whole cultural zeitgeist back then. Like
Hmm.
he was super popular. I mean, they just show the documentary showed like just how large and popular he
Right.
became, like a really quick, overnight, almost overnight
Yeah,
success. And um, his show was just, was huge.
it
It had
was.
a huge audience and it had a really large reach. One of the things that was really cool is like the guests that he had. Like he had Grace Jones and on the show and
Like his
Cher.
Christmas special too. Yeah.
And I just thought that was really cool. Like Grace Jones on a kid show is like amazing.
That's
Really
true.
cool.
That is
Yeah,
true. Well, I'm glad that also that the documentary didn't shy away from all the controversy around him as well.
yeah,
That he was able to also speak to that and clear up his name to a certain degree. I think one of the things, last words that he said that really touched me was that you can remember me as this, you can remember me as that, but what you don't and you will not remember me as is a pedophile.
yeah,
So he made sure to, clear the air of that. And he wanted, that's like the one message that he wanted to get across for his legacy, I guess.
yeah.
And so I'm glad that the documentary went into that. But with that in mind, how do you think his scandal or scandals played out back then, pre-internet days? How would those play out today with cancel culture and all that stuff? Would it have been even worse for him, or because information is so much more readily available, would he have been exonerated sooner?
It's hard to say, but I think that we see people that have little controversies here and there, and um, I don't think that it would have been as big of a deal now than it was back then. Like the whole idea of him being caught in like an adult theater
Yeah,
now, I don't think would have been as big of a deal as it was
right.
back then.
I agree.
Um, the portion that they went into where he was being accused of having, you know, things that were inappropriate, related
Hmm.
to children, um, that very much felt like more um, like they were going after
Yeah,
him for
yeah.
personal or political reasons, and it wasn't really based on fact that it was more of like a witch hunt. I think that nowadays, because the LGBT community is certainly like accepted more. Not, obviously it's not perfect, but like that they're accepted a little bit more than
Hmm.
they were then. That the villainization or the persecution of him because of his sexuality may not occur in the same way that it would have back then.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of, I mean, it's weird because it's a scandal that like hasn't occurred again. Um, and it's hard to say like how people would react to it now, with cancel culture, like you said. Um, the thing about nowadays is that there's always a scandal and then people move from it like really quickly. And
Yeah.
like, I don't know if you remember that whole like Balenciaga thing where they were kind of being accused of something very similar, of like inappropriate things
Hmm.
related to children and that subject matter. And people were boycotting Balenciaga, and now it's like, does anyone even mention it anymore?
Right.
So
The news cycle is so fast nowadays that
yeah.
it's just a blip and it's gone. Yeah.
So I think that it may have been downplayed a bit more, like it would have. I mean, when you take someone like Kanye West, who has multiple controversies, like a week to sometimes
Hmm.
like a day, it almost seems like this wouldn't have been a big deal. Um, I certainly feel that there wouldn't have been such a witch hunt
Yeah.
regarding, a gay man, um, now than it would have been back then.
Yeah.
To be honest, like I don't even remember that. I remember the first controversy with him getting caught in like an adult
Yeah.
theater. I definitely remember that. Like I remember him coming up on MTV and saying like, "Oh, have you heard any funny jokes lately?" Like remember all of that like it happened yesterday. But I don't remember like the other part, like
No.
him being prosecuted and him, his collection of like art or whatever you want to call it
Hmm.
being questioned, and him going to trial in regards to that. Like, I don't remember that at all.
I'm on the same boat with you. I remember exactly, like you said, the whole scandal in the theater, but
Yeah,
I have no recollection of the second one, of the whole where he's hiding out with David Arquette in their and Courtney Cox in their house because, like we talked about the news cycle, just lay low. But I don't remember that at all. So I was like, wow, that happened.
yeah. So I don't. I wonder if it was maybe more localized to like the Los Angeles area. I don't know. I don't remember it being a thing back in the day.
Yeah.
But it makes me happy that like I don't remember him in that way. Um, that maybe he had some success in the fact that maybe I'm not uncommon in the fact that I don't remember him in within that context of that
Hmm.
controversy.
Hmm.
That I remember him for the Pee-wee Herman character,
Right.
and lighter things, and being a comedic person, and being funny, and all of that. So in a way, I guess he was successful in overcoming that obstacle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Very true. If we don't remember it, then we could just remember him in the good times. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm glad that they go over it, because then people can't like bring it up after the fact. Like he can address it in his own words.
Exactly. Yes.
That's really great that he was able to like meet it head on and say like, this is exactly what happened. This is in my words. Like this is what I want to say. Like end of story. Period. Like this is all that's going to be said about it.
Right.
So that's kind of cool that he was able to like address it while he was still alive, and not like after his death, like having people come forward and mentioning things about his past controversies.
Right. Right. And I think it was interesting that he decided not to tell the filmmaker that he was sick when he was going through those interviews.
Yeah.
Right. So that was interesting because I wonder if that would have shaped the lens a little bit different for the filmmaker. Oh, he's sick. We need to make this like his farewell song or whatever. So,
Yeah. I think that there's a possibility that that's what Paul Reubens was thinking, is that like it's going to impact the documentary, and that it's going to be like, oh, this is my swan song, and that maybe like he would garner sympathy from the director, and the documentarian, and it would skew it in a way that like maybe it would make you feel sorry for him, as
Hmm.
opposed to like him being able to like address things and talk freely about what he wants to address. So I think that yeah, it definitely was purposeful, and I don't know if it was the right choice because you know it might have been better for him to share that information with them, but at the same time, like
Yeah.
it then
Yeah.
allowed the documentary to go one way and not be impacted by the medical drama or the
Hmm.
medical issues that were around. So I can kind of see it from Paul Reubens' perspective of like not wanting it to be woe is me, like here I am sick,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
and talk more about his life than the illness. So that I could see that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everyone needs to watch it, especially if you're a fan of Pee Wee or just curious as to what his life was about, because he led quite a fascinating life. More so than I could have imagined that he did. I mean, I didn't think he went around dressed as like Pee Wee all the time everywhere he went. No, I didn't think that, but I didn't know about his performance pieces before, all his circuit stuff that he went through, everything that he endured in his life, from the relationships to the, not wanting to get hurt again. So from his dad telling him, you got to focus on your career. And he decided to do that. And it was just a very fascinating life to me. And I'm so glad that I was watched it. So Matt Wolf, if you ever see this, thank you for crafting such a touching documentary for us to be nostalgic with and to enjoy the good times and learn a lot about Pee Wee. So
Well, I think they did a really great job about showing the person, Paul Reubens,
yeah,
and letting him break that character of like who Pee-wee Herman is, and addressing everything head on,
yeah,
which was really good. I just say I think, like you said, that he was a very fascinating person, someone that like personally I would like to have known,
yeah,
just because it
yeah.
seems so interesting, and just like a cool character. Like the people
Hmm.
that knew him spoke so well of him, and you had everyone from like Debbie Mazar to David Arquette, kind of talking about him.
Yeah,
Having nostalgia for the better times that they had with him, and it just seemed like he was a cool person.
absolutely. Yeah, it's like you said, someone I would have liked to have known, because you never quite know where the night's gonna go with him. It seems like it would be a big adventure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's my thoughts on Pee Wee as himself. That's all I got.
Yeah, yeah. Really recommend it. Like you said, I think everyone should take a watch. It's really interesting. If you aren't familiar with the Pee Wee Herman character, it's just kind of like a fascinating look into someone who created this iconic character,
Hmm.
uh, a character that will probably live on for a long time. I think that will be definitely his long lasting legacy is the Pee Wee Herman
Yeah.
character, and people will look back on him fondly. So
Yeah.
that's
Yep. So watch the documentary out there. Then go watch Pee Wee's Big Adventure,
yeah,
because why not? They're both great.
very cool. Along with watching, I would recommend listening to Garbage new album.
Yes.
That just came out. I've been listening to it. Really cool. Shirley Manson is like a hero to me. She's such an icon.
Hmm.
Um, she's sort of hitting the head on the criticisms of her aging, which as like a female artist, it sort of like hits them differently than their male counterparts, which is like completely unfair and ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she is such a badass that she addresses it in like a rock star fashion, and the music is really great.
I've only
They're
heard the one song, the single she released. They released the whole album now.
Yeah, the whole album is out, and
Cool. I'll have to listen to it.
it's good. It definitely is. If you're a fan of garbage music, it's very much sounds very similar to a lot of the other stuff that they've come out with. But it's just kind of cool to see someone who is aging and still owning their rock star status.
Hmm.
As I get older, I tend to like not want to let go of certain things and not want to be put in a box of like, oh, you're middle aged, you need to like be, an old man, or you need to, there's all these labels that people put on older people or like people that are aging. And it's really not fair because creativity is not just a young person's sport.
Absolutely.
You still are creative until you die. I mean,
Yeah.
there are people that are creating um, amazing things into their old age, and so like I love seeing people like her who just still own that
Yeah.
and say like, fuck you, like I'm not gonna be uh quiet about it, like I'm gonna still rock, like I'm still gonna be who I've always been. I have power. I wish I knew the name of the song, but there's one that like specifically addresses the criticism that she has been receiving regarding her aging. And she did, the way she attacks it is just like really artful and really commendable, and she's an icon within the rock world.
Yeah.
I love her. One of the best front women of rock bands. I've seen Garbage play probably like a handful of times, like I would say maybe like 4 or 5 times. And every time I've seen them, they're like really good. They're like, she's amazing as a front woman, fronting the band, and always, always, always entertaining. And her voice is amazing.
Yeah. Can't disagree there.
Yeah, so definitely check that out. Go watch Pee-wee Herman's documentary. Listen to some Garbage. Um,
And not some garbage like, random stuff. You mean the band Garbage.
yeah, the
Just so we
band.
weren't clear.
Yeah, we had some really cool, interesting names for. We should probably do like a list. That would be kind of interesting, like the most interesting names for bands from the '90s, because
Okay.
there were like certainly some bands that like had some questionable names for their band.
Hmm.
You went for, I mean, I guess that's all rock bands because like the Beatles is a weird name for a band too.
Yeah. Well, they spelled it with the beat, like the beat. So
Yeah, like, but it's still
still,
the
yeah.
Beatles. The Rolling Stones is kind of an interesting. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm overthinking the names. But you have like bands like Hole, the Smashing Pumpkins,
But I
Pearl
think
Jam.
of like how many bands had the word soul in it, like Soul Coughing, Soul Asylum, and there was one other soul one. Can't think of it right now, but there is.
I think there's a joke about that in American Dad of like, which is your favorite
Yes. Yes.
band? Started from with Soul, like Soul Asylum, Soul Coughing, and he's like,
That's where I was getting it from. Yes, there is. I just saw that episode where they did like a 90s festival or something like that.
I think he has like, he's like, yeah, so many memories, and he's like, one memory, so many memories, like, and he has like one memory of like the times that he's thinking about, but um yeah, I just think that there's some interesting names, Garbage being one of them,
Yeah,
where it's like kind of interesting that you
it is.
named your band Garbage, but
We can do that. We could do a list of band names from the 90s that are questionable, spot on, or just downright weird.
yeah, Nine Inch Nails,
Nine Inch Nails, yeah.
Marilyn Manson, like really interesting names. I don't know, but it's cool. Like they're all my favorite bands. Like
Yeah.
I love them, but
What's a Foo Fighter, right? So,
yeah, Foo Fighters, like there's I mean, they're literally almost all of them have like very weird names,
yeah, but
except for people that are like it's their actual name, like
yeah.
Cornelius or uh, I don't know who else is a person that has their name as their band name, but
We'll get into that. We'll get
yeah.
into that next time. We'll go all through music and we'll get into that. That'd be fun.
All right, cool.
All right. Well, everyone, you have your marching orders. Go watch those, listen to some Garbage. And then I guess we'll see you guys here next time.
We'll see you.